Hello Internet, this is yet again questionable time with, don't, no that sounds wrong. It's time for Raph to talk at a computer and microphone for God knows how long. And for any poor soul who is out there that has clicked on this video to listen to me until they decide to click off. Yet again, don't have tea or a drink. I'm just sat here talking, but I am going to talk about slightly different to Blizzard this time, but still involves them. I'm going to talk about MOBAs. Because I've played a few MOBAs. There's more that I want to play, but I'm going to talk about the ones I have played and what I like and dislike about them, and what I'll do to create a preferred MOBA out of the stuff that I have knowledge of. Just because they're a really popular type of game that a lot of people are making, and they're trying different things to make new, interesting MOBAs to stand out from the crowd. And I don't know how well it's working for a lot of them, but I have a feeling that it's probably quite hard to stick out as a MOBA. So I just want to throw my thoughts into the MOBA pot of gaming stuff. And I mean, yeah, like if people agree they can say, if they disagree they can say. But I don't see many people watching this. Anyway, the first MOBA I'm going to talk about is probably the most well-known MOBA around, and that is Dota 2. I've not played Dota 1, which is probably actually more well-known due to the fact that it's kind of kickstarted the popularity of MOBAs, but pretty sure it did, but that's not the point. Dota 2 is very well liked and very popular, and is good to a degree, I would say. It's the one I've spent the most time playing, and it's flawed. I generally... Right, so I'll start off with the characters, lore-wise, and kind of like... I really like the characters. I find they all have interesting personalities. They're all different. I remember them. They stick out to me, and I like their lore mostly. Some characters need improvement, and I feel some characters can have a bit more dialogue between them. But the thing I really like is how the characters interact with one another, because it fleshes them out more and makes them feel more like actual characters. That's probably my favourite thing of Dota. Dota is the MOBA you would play, in my opinion, if you want a more complex game. The problem I have with this is I don't have a tendency to take things very seriously. And because Dota is the more complex of the games that I've played, people tend to take it more seriously on that. It also makes it more harder if you're just trying to chill out and have a good time. You don't play it if you want to chill. It becomes a lot harder that way. And there's several reasons for that, I find. One reason is the items and gold earning. Gold earning is not the easiest thing to earn unless you are a farmer who will go into the jungle and farm stuff, probably, or a carry, because everyone has to give their gold to carries. If you're a support, you're going to be broke, probably. Like, people don't tend to be willing to let you take many last hits, unless you know the person. And of course there are exceptions. But because of this, I mostly end up playing support, because my friend would always play carry and he always wanted to lane with me most of the time, so I just had to be a support to make it more efficient. And I don't mind that, except supports kind of get the short end of the stick, wherein the enemy carry will absolutely destroy you, and chances are more of the enemy team will be able to kill you relatively easily due to the fact that you don't have as much money as everyone else because you've not been able to earn it, and you're supposed to set up kills for your carry, which isn't always the easiest thing. Pub games I generally don't bother. I don't play ranked, but in a ranked game you would do it. But I feel because the way it takes so much to earn gold with certain characters, and the fact that the items are incredibly powerful for what they are, but they're powerful mostly for agility heroes, aka basically all the carries in the game, because pretty much every agility hero is a carry. But because pretty much every item except some of the intellect support items are designed to benefit the agility carries, or will benefit them either way, games become very boring when you encounter certain of these agility carries, which are generally the most unbalanced of the characters, because they buy a single item of a certain type and they just become too hard to deal with a lot of the time. And what small counters you have for those characters, generally there's an item to counter their counter. So they can just, for example, Black King Bar makes them immune to spells. Most of spells anyway. Which would be the main counter for certain characters like Phantom Assassin, whose main ability is the fact that she can dodge most melee attacks. This way, well, auto attacks. You normally just fire some spells off at her until she's got not enough health. Unfortunately, she can buy BKB, activate that, you can't hit her with spells. She can slow you, teleport to you, uses pretty much no mana with her abilities, has very little cooldown of the abilities, and can crit you for far too much damage too easily. And as a support, shoot comes along, bam, you're basically dead before your carry can even do anything to save you. But this, I feel, I don't know if weakening items would be a good idea, because so many characters are so reliant upon items. Whilst it would balance it a little bit, it might make those carries that are reliant upon their items pretty much redundant. So, whilst I feel certain items do need weakening, I don't know how much that would change the game. And so, that's something they'd have to test out, and I don't know if they have done that. But personally, I feel items in Dota, in general, certain items need weakening. I also feel the way you pick your heroes is an issue for me, because the other two MOBAs I've played are League of Legends, not that much, but I've played it, and Heroes of the Storm. And the way you pick your heroes in that is you cannot see what your enemy team picks, and then you will pick your heroes, and if the enemy team has the same hero as your team, it's fine. You still play the game. You're allowed to have two heroes as long as they're opposite teams. In Dota, you cannot do this. If the enemy team pick your character that you wanted to play as, you cannot play as them. You can also both see what characters everyone is picking. This quite often leads to both teams waiting until the last second to pick their characters and having to counterpick characters, because certain characters are too big of a threat if you don't have a specific character or items to deal with just them. And so it ends up with someone, if you are in to win or whatever, or even just for a more fun game, you're probably going to have to pick a character that you weren't quite sure you wanted to play with, just to even out the ground a bit. And that, I feel, takes a lot away from it, because I like the fact that when I play Heroes of the Storm, I pick a character and then it finds my teams. And whoever I'm playing as, that's who I'm playing as. It doesn't matter who's on my team because I don't know who's going to be on my team. It doesn't matter who's on the enemy team because I don't know who's going to be on the enemy team. And I feel, whilst it can lead to some matches where your team is terribly unbalanced for what you're up against, you don't feel so bad about it because it's kind of random. You don't know what's going to be in the game, so you just pick whatever. And I enjoy that because it means I can play as whoever I want without having to worry about who the enemy picks or if they just pick someone solely to spite and counter me or whatever. And League of Legends, you can see who your allies are picking, but not the enemy team. So you can't, well, in certain game modes. There are other game modes, I believe, in both, I'm not sure. But there are other game modes where you can see the enemy team and you can, like, ban and stuff like that. But that's all ranked-ish kind of things. It's what pro-ish, like, people who take the game more seriously. And I don't do that. I just do pub games. Public matches. Because I find it more enjoyable, generally, than having to take the game seriously. But, yeah, so in League of Legends it's the same kind of principle, except you know who your team are picking, which means you have to think a bit about that, but in general, you can pick the character you want to play, because you don't have to worry so much about the enemy team. Because after all, you could probably make any team work in those games if you do it right. Even in Dota, although it's hard if you have a team of all carries, a team of all carries can potentially work. But I would quite like, even if it was a different game mode, a game mode where I could just pick my character and then not have to worry about what the enemy team is picking. And then when we're in the game, we find out what the enemy team's picked. And if they've picked the same character as me, I'm fighting me. Because it really annoys me how I can't pick, say, Jakiro if the enemy team have picked Jakiro. I want to be Jakiro against Jakiro. It'd probably cause some confusion, but that's not an issue, really, because they've got more confusing game modes, like Ability Draft. So I feel Dota could do something like that, and it would improve it in my eyes. They have apparently released a new patch, which I'm going to have to download and have a look at to see what they've done. But I'll do that later. Which is why I'm not talking about any of... Well, not trying to talk about how unbalanced characters are, because that might have changed since I last looked. But chances are they haven't changed Phantom Assassin. Though I find Dota is not very good at balancing characters. Earth Spirit is a prime example of that in my eyes, because every patch they seem to weaken his abilities. Or at least one of... Rolling Bold has been weakened pretty much every patch I can remember. But like... Yeah, so I feel... If I was to really enjoy Dota more than I do, because I've gone off Dota compared to League of Legends and Heroes of the Storm. And I think part of that's because I've played it longer, so it feels more boring. But I feel part of that's because it's harder to play as who you want to play in Dota. Whereas the other games, you just pick them. And you don't care who the enemy team is, and you can fight against yourself. But I'm waiting for the next character on Dota as well. And I'll probably start playing a bit more when they're released, whoever they be. But at the moment, I've kind of gone on a Dota hiatus and focusing more on Heroes of the Storm specifically. And I definitely prefer Heroes of the Storm. I have talked for quite a bit, and my throat is getting sore. And I guess that's me talking about specific parts of Dota. There is more to talk about Dota, Heroes of the Storm, and League of Legends. I have not really gone into that much detail. If I wanted to, I could sit here talking for much, much longer. But I'm sure people aren't that interested. And so I'm going to stop this video, and I'll probably finish off my thoughts on this stuff later. Who knows, it might have changed a little bit. Something tells me it won't have changed much. But I think for now, I'll call it stop, quits, whatever. Stop the video. Stop torturing you poor people that are listening to my voice. And I will finish this off another day. And so I wish you all who are listening to this point, and before, if you left, but you won't get this message, I wish you all a good day and whatnot.